Well, well, in preparation for this, I'll tell you what, when you sent me the questions, Kent, it really got my brain working and made me think about my childhood. And I actually called my mother and we rehashed some of these stories of my childhood about it really made me dig deep and think about some of the funny people that have crossed our lives, if you will, growing up. And so I appreciate you making me dig deep and thinking about my childhood. And my mother and I we had some good laughs over some of the funny experiences. So yeah, no, he's still around. He's 83. It's actually my mom's 80th birthday today. Um, so so they're still around. They're still kicking, and we can get into my dad if you want. He's a deal junkie just like us. He's just 83 and still wants to do deals, man. He still just want he's it's it's in there. So well, in the prep, I think I showed you a picture of my father with the as we called him, the rent man, with his cowboy hat and his dog and collecting the rents. So anyway, yeah, it's funny stuff. So let me know. Okay. Yeah, I mean, just tell me if I'm going too far on something, or whether you want me to go into some of the personal triumphs of my life. And so I always say my superpower is keeping the family together. So man, yeah, there's mom and dad and the rent man, maintenance man, owner, bookkeeper. Hold on a second. Let me. That's down here in the corner. That was literally outside the property. There's there's the dog over here. See, there's our dog that collected all the rent. So, so just let me know if you want me to share any of that. All right, well, great. Well, thanks a lot for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. And Nate Fisher. I'm here in Central Ohio. I grew up in a multifamily family. So what does that mean? Well, from a very young age, I was in the apartment world. My parents, in the '60s, were doing what a lot of us today aspire to do, is own real estate. And so they started here in Central Ohio with a double near the Ohio State campus while they lived in a trailer park uh, nearby and went to school. So they were doing the Burr method in the '60s. And, I didn't know what that was then, but, that's kind of what I grew up around. And the family portfolio grew from that double, which is still around today. And it's actually been sold down through a few different generations. My kids currently own that double right now. So we call that the training wheels property. Um, and so my kids just bought that from my wife and I. But my early childhood was spent driving around to apartments and looking at them, and probably what a lot of us do today on the way to a soccer game. We're like, hold on, son, hold on, daughter, we got to go look at this apartment complex. And so I was doing that when I was a little kid, and then that progressed to doing work orders with my dad and riding around in the maintenance truck, and then that progressed to being on the lawn crew. And as I got older, I worked on the roofing crew, and we did landscaping. So we were true owner operators. And that grew to about 900 units at that family portfolio here at the east of downtown Columbus, all scattered sites anywhere from the double to 200 unit complex. So I grew up around that, really doing a little bit of everything. And so always knew that I wanted to be in real estate, just didn't know exactly where I fit. And I'll speed through this and we can kind of come back to it. But got a degree from Ohio State through the business college in real estate. Probably the only guy that started knowing that he wanted to get a real estate degree. And I achieved that, got a real estate degree in business college in real estate finance. And then ended up, my passion, hence the Peak 10 group, that's the Peak 10 in Breckenridge, Colorado. I love the mountains. I love to ski. And I said, I got to get my skiing and my real estate together. How am I going to do this? Ended up finding this company out of Canada who's doing ski resort base village development. So I went to work for them shortly after college, and we were doing mixed use in the late 90s. And so I got my first taste of development there, and we were building, for sale condo hotels with commercial on the ground floor, a plaza area and walking area, and then underground parking. And so that was the greatest job ever. I'm learning how to do development. I'm at a ski resort. My office is in a ski lodge, and that was just the greatest thing ever. So worked there, met my wife in the ski industry, and then after 9/11, there wasn't a lot of travel and leisure work, and real estate kind of in a little bit of a recession there. I started up my own company. That's when Peak 10 sort of got its start. And then the Great Recession hit. And there was not a lot of work. So I did go back and start working for the family business, and ended up running the family business for about 10 years through 2018. And Peak 10 sort of set dormant during that time, knowing that I would sort of get back to it at some point. But brought a lot of technology into the family business. My father and mother were running it, with a lot of paper. And so I really integrated a lot of technology into our multifamily business, which I think is very important, because you're seeing the wave of renters, this massive apartment boom we've had the past 10 years. I was getting the family ready for that. Okay, let's see. So let me see if I can make the audio a little bit better. Okay, there you go. So down here, this is a 200 unit complex that we bought in 1989 from a doctor, and I can talk a little bit about that at some point too. But literally, 10% occupied, 200 units. This down in the right hand of the screen, there is a sandwich sign. It says "Stop, crack sold here, 510, $25." So literally, that was out in front of the complex when we bought it. In the top picture, there's a picture of my mother and father with the police at the entrance to the apartment complex. They were thrilled that we purchased this. Believe me, they were ecstatic. The police that we bought this. It saved them a lot of labor. There's a picture of the building with all the windows broken out, and I think these were about 16 unit. And then down in the left is the Doberman that policed the place, my dad's dog. So, well, I think that you have to be really, really creative here, right? Like, developing the relationships with the bank. So, if a property's in trouble, the bank doesn't want it back. So this was owned by a doctor who thought he was going to be a real estate guy, but clearly could not operate a property. And we can talk about the advantages of buying things from doctors and lawyers. No offense, guys, but a lot of times they think they can do it all, and we can capitalize on that when they can't. And so, we were able to actually work with the bank and get the seller to give us about $600,000 of rehab money to take his problem off his hands. And so, it's really a partnership with, leveraging your relationship with the bank and your track record. And the seller, he doesn't want to lose his property. He doesn't want to, have a bankruptcy on and get foreclosed on. So we were able to be super creative and get the bank to believe in us and allow us to and to work with us on the loan. And so we actually got money back to do some of the rehab. So you can do that in today's terms. It's a rehab loan from the bank, or seller financing. So you just have to be really, really flexible, and be creative. And everybody was happy to see us get control of this property because we're turnaround artists, man. We would stabilize areas of neighborhoods, and so we had a track record that allowed us to step in here and stabilize the neighborhood. I mean, this is 6 acres. This is a big property. It was cancer to the neighborhood. And so, aligning and sharing your vision of what you're going to do with the police. There's another photo in here where my mom and dad get an award from the police because they saved, I forget, there was, hundreds of police runs to this complex. And so they were commended for the reduction in the amount of crime just by us coming in, building by building, getting it back on track, fixing those windows. And this is where, Kent, you had alluded to, our partnership with groups. And so this is really where that 30-year relationship with a local help agency started. This was really the beginning of that, and that relationship continued for 30 years. So, if you want me to go into that, I can. But it was a true private partner relationship here, man. It was a lot of stuff. Yeah, and I'll just add one thing. What you just said the city, and so code enforcement, all the local officials, they don't want to deal with this thing. If a lot of times these communities get so run down, the only option is to bulldoze it, and that doesn't help the affordable housing problem right now at all. That makes it worse. So if you can get the city on your side and code enforcement isn't breathing down your neck, they don't want to, they're happy to see you as long as you convey that to them that you're going to make a difference. They'll be a little bit lenient on you. Wow, I think you're right. That is a loaded question. I don't know that it is a steep learning curve, and you have to ask yourself, am I cut out for this? Everybody thinks they want to be a landlord, but not everybody's cut out for that. And And so, that's the first thing. Do I want to do this? Am I willing to put in the hard work? Because it's not easy. And there's a learning curve, and it's a steep one. And I think, Dane, you're grinding through it right now, and it's tough. And there's not, if there, 15 years ago, there wasn't these kinds of forums where we're talking today. There wasn't readily available information. There wasn't a playbook. At least now, we can pick up the phone and call each other. It just, in my dad's days, the rent man, it was like foghorn leghorn. Everybody beat each other up all day long. They didn't collaborate or have as many discussions like you and I are having today. So that learning curve is steep. And thank goodness today we can collaborate and talk, and we can share war stories. We're not trying to fight each other all day long, because it was every man for himself, for a long time. And so that learning curve is steep, and that learning curve can be, hey, if I'm going to take vouchers, or I want to work with the government and use these vouchers, it's tough, man. They don't make that easy, and it's a lot of learning, and so some of the bureaucracy, and I see that as an impediment to solving the affordable housing, is it needs to be easier for us to be housing providers and be in partnership with the housing, whoever's administrating the vouchers. That's probably the biggest hurdle, is just that, we're just like everybody else here, man. We're grinding. We put on our pants every morning, but it's not easy. It is a long road, and it's managing your your liquidity to get the next loan, and don't outlay too much capital on this one project, because you can get upside down. And then at the same time, you're trying to time market conditions. What type of debt do I put on? What can I do here? What does the property need? Like, I thrive on that strategy. I love that, but it's not for everybody. And you're right, it is a long, long grind. But I'll call it a hockey stick. You stick after it, and you keep learning, and eventually you get it, and it goes up. And I'm on that hockey stick up right now. But it was a long, long time. I I, I think don't be afraid. You don't know what you don't know, and don't be afraid to ask. Right? Like, don't try to do it all yourself. You don't have to be a master of everything. Find a mentor, reach out, say, I want to learn. I mean, there's a lot of guys like me who want to teach what we do, and to share our stories, and help guide. And so I think it's, don't be afraid to align yourself with somebody who knows more than you. And maybe that could be a coach, or that could be a mentor, or there's I just invested in a self-storage deal. I thought maybe I'd do my own self storage. Yay, Nate will learn it. Well, that's not the easy. I didn't want to. So I was able to invest as a passive investor. I don't have to manage it, but I get a seat in the passenger seat to learn self storage, and I'm making money at the same time. So I'm learning along, and again, I'm always learning something new. And so don't be afraid to seek out who knows more than you, because you don't need to know it all. you know, secret sauce, right? Like, when I look at the family business, our secret sauce was curb appeal. And the property could be completely hit from the inside, destroyed. And the first thing we would do is we would landscape. And that's really my dad's passion. And he cool, cool. I switched to a new speaker. Let me know if that's any better. Can you guys hear me? Okay, great, great, great. I switched to the backup. So I'll parlay on what Dane just said. Coming in with landscaping and making the curb appeal, it just brings everybody up in the neighborhood, and everyone's looking at how great your property looks, and then they want to invest in their property. And the other guy he starts landscaping his or her across the way, and it just sort of builds up, and people feel better about where they live, not coming home to a shithole. And so that's the first thing we do, is come in and make sure that the property looks good, the parking lot looks good, the landscaping is impeccable. And we probably spend too much money on the landscaping, but that was really, that's really one of the first things we would do to a property, and that just sort of lifts the neighborhood up. And that starts the stabilization and the reinvestment in the neighborhood. And after a little while, you've stabilized a whole block and a whole couple blocks. And then the single family homeowners start going, well, wow, this is a nice area. I want to buy here. And so then they start buying homes, and it just really lifts everybody up in the neighborhood. And that's that pride of ownership that that you get, whether you're a multifamily owner, affordable housing owner, or a single family home owner, or a renter, right? Like, you feel good about where you live. And a lot of times, we just try to be, if you think about a person's life, their rent is their biggest payment. And if you can give them a safe, affordable place to live, you've just taken a lot of worry out of their life, and their life becomes more stable. So trying to be the most stable force in their life is what we try to do as affordable housing landlords. And they might have a crazy boyfriend or a crazy whatever going on, or, but if they have a safe place to be, then that's what we try to be. Ken, what was the rest of the question? I kind of got sidetracked there. Yeah, I mean, I think, as you scale up your business, and as you go from a double to a 4-unit to a 12 to a 40 to whatever, right? You've got to add more staff. And where I think we made some mistakes along the way is when I got back into the family business. I had left for a while, and my mother and father had done really well. Okay, they'd made a lot of money, and they sort of lost their, I wouldn't say lost their focus. They just sort of took their eye off the ball a little bit. And when you're in this space, you've got to keep your eye on the ball, and that means your staff. And really, what I found is that and as you get multiple properties, and your staff, we were doing, at one point when I got back in the business, we were doing 15 evictions a month. That's crazy talk. And when I really analyzed, we had lost the focus in the business about doing your due diligence on each and every individual resident. And so, you've got to do the proper screening. Spend your time on screening the people and making sure they're the right people. Because if you're not putting in the right people, and then sometimes you really have to watch your staff, because while you might be the owner, it's very easy for your team to become tenant advocates. And they want to, look, we all want to help people, right? But some of these stories tug on your heartstrings, and you want to help them out. And so you give a little bit of a break somewhere. And then, I remember looking at the portfolio, and we had this 12-unit building, and it was the most affordable property in the whole portfolio. And what had happened is the staff were getting lazy, and they weren't doing the qualifications correctly, and they were wanting to help. That whole 12-unit building was just a place to park the people that they wanted to help. And then they weren't paying rent, and now we're evicting them. And it just was this vicious cycle that if you're not doing your homework on the residents you're putting in, then you're having to evict them. So that was a big mistake, is we let that get out of hand. We maybe tried to help too much, and we didn't stick to our strategy of qualifying people the right way. And so that turned into another job. Okay, well, then we had to have a person who handled evictions, and then we had to have a person who helped with set outs. And then and it just became this cycle that wasn't good for anybody. Nobody wants to, we don't want to evict people. So why are we having this repetitive 15 evictions every month? That's not good. So that was a big, big mistake we made. And so I really cleaned that up, and we got it down to one eviction
for 900 units when I stopped running the family's portfolio and moved into my new company. So that's if you just look at your whole process from the start to finish, what's happening at the end? Let me go back to the beginning and see, and stick to your guns and stick to your qualifications. And that was a big mistake we made. So yes, we used a lot of vouchers in the family's portfolio, and in my own portfolio today we do as well. Not to the level, just depending on what class you're operating in. Clearly, there's more. The family's portfolio is C class and D class. There's always going to be more vouchers. There's going to be more agencies that you're working with. So, I think we probably had 25% of the portfolio were voucher based when I took that over, and I think that as we get down in here a little bit more, some of the partnership, when I talked about the crack 5, 10, 15 sold here building, we were receiving vouchers, but it was also a partnership with a help agency that was dealing with women that had addiction issues and that might have had children. And so, there's your straight voucher, right, that comes, and that's just housing. And then there's project-based Section 8. I've managed a project-based Section 8 property as well. We had, 95 units in that 102 that were project-based. But, there's different types of vouchers, and I do want to get into the Amethyst, which is a local group, the 30-year relationship we had, and that is women that had addiction issues, and they needed housing, and so you have a help agency that has a treatment component to it, but they also need the housing component. Well, the local housing authority has a real, and over time this has gotten worse, right? Like, they really only want to give the housing vouchers to people that are homeless, right? But you have this group of people that are really, really in need, that need housing, that are one step away from homeless. And so there's this challenge of the funding of the group Amethyst. How would they get their funding with their people aren't homeless? Like, it's really a battle there. And there's some other lessons learned about financing and how much of your portfolio to what's a safe amount to have committed to one particular agency, if you will, or one help group, or however you want to call it. So, well, the challenge isn't that you have Section 8 or CMHA vouchers in your units. When you have a master lease with one group, the lenders are going to get squirrely anytime you get over 30% to one single tenant. And so there is some challenges there. If you want to have a relationship where 100% of your building is master leased to a group, or maybe whatever their mission is, a mission-based group, let's call it that, the lender is going to then, have some heartburn over that. And on this particular the property we talked about, at one point we had 50% was leased to one group, and when I went to do the refinance on that, the lender actually, we had to set up an appointment with the CFO of the help agency so they could sort of be underwritten as to the validity of their nonprofit. And so, there are some bumpers in there. And in 06, or 07, when the Great Recession, there was a lot of market rate apartment communities that had a high concentration of corporate housing units. And immediately when the corporate housing cut, and so then the loan and the bank gets squirrely. Well, they can have that same feeling. And so you might see restrictions on how many units in a particular community can you master lease. So it's something to communicate clearly with your lender about what you're doing or what your intentions are, and make sure they're on board. And you might need to bring that group in, and they might need to present their finances to your own lender. So it's just something to consider and keep in mind. Well, again, we want to do good, and we all want to help. And so, I think you just have to be cautious a little bit if you have a community that you want to do 100% to one nonprofit. You just have to vet that nonprofit and make sure they have the finances, and know that it's always, depending on how they're structured, you got to do your due diligence on that group as well. And so you just need to be eyes wide open and know what you're getting into if that's the route you want to go. To your point, the vouchers is a great way. And when we started with 10% occupancy, we needed that. At that time, we really needed that, and we had to have it, and that was the path forward. And so, time and place depends on where you're at, how you want to structure that, or I will say, like, it takes a special. Look, this isn't easy. Navigating that voucher system and getting your unit inspected, it's not easy. It might sound easy, and everybody might tell you it's easy, but you can have an inspector come out and they find a cable on the outside of the property that's loose, and you don't get paid. Like, again, you asked me what some of the problems are and how do we solve this affordable housing. It's making it easier. And they might pick on you. I mean, there were some days where we would have the CMHA group, Section 8, we have had a van, and we would drive them around and show them all the good things that we're doing. Like, we're not bad people here, guys. Like, we want to help, but you can't pick on us, right? Like, don't fail a unit because the cable on the outside is loose. Fail me if there's a problem on the inside. I can guarantee that our properties are, we took really good care. And so when you're failing us for something on the outside that has no bearing on the inside living condition, come on. Like, and so, that part is a challenge. And that's one of the problems that we have, is that, we get picked on because we're landlords and oh, well, they can afford to not have the rent. Well, no, we can't. We have a loan to pay too. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like every year they go to a conference in October and they come back and it's really bad for a while. And then we rebuild the relationship. They write us up for a bunch of stuff, and then we rebuild the relationship, and they're like, oh yeah, these guys are actually good people. They really do mean well. They do what they say and they follow through. Don't feed them a bunch of BS. They're people too. And yeah, I mean, it's that relationship building with them, and it might be bumpy when the inspector changes or somebody moves on, and so it does take a little while. And I always think that this is very applicable to the guys in code enforcement, right? It's the same type of relationship building. And if we're getting flack, and again, that's that relationship. If we were getting flack from the local inspector, we always tried to know who was up, and hey, we don't want to go above your head, but sometimes you need to go and say, hey, and we're getting a lot of flack here on the street. We really mean well. Can you talk to your inspector? Because you know us. We've been working together for 10 years. Again, that relationship building. Don't be afraid to talk to the people, and they're humans too. But same thing, code enforcement. You're like, hey, I'm going to do this. I just can't get it done maybe by Friday, but I'm going to get it done by next Tuesday. I've got some other things, or, there's also when there's these inspections happen, what you said, Dane, the pro forma, you're like, hey, look, I know there's a crack in that sidewalk, but look at these roofs that I've just put on, right? I just put $50,000 of roofs on. I'll get to the crack in the sidewalk, in the spring. So it's prioritizing and sharing maybe what you've done on your property, that you're doing the big important things that need to be done, and don't not do them. Yeah, I think it's great questions. And at the highest level, it's a supply and demand issue. We don't have enough supply, and there's a number of reasons why that is. And so if we can solve the supply, I think the National Apartment Association came out with a study last year. In the US, we're 4.5 million units under. I mean, we have to build more. It's crazy. That's our problem. Really, at the top level, it's supply. And so how do we get more supply? Well, we have to make it easier. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. And so for a long time, it was acceptance of multifamily. We were just shitty landlords, right? And apartments suck. Well, that's not the case. And people in communities, and still there's a lot of communities that don't want apartments, and they think we're just slumlords. And so I feel like in the past 15 years, we have, and some people have woken up, if you will, to the fact that apartments can be great neighbors. And so a lot of communities didn't want apartments for a long time, and so they would block them. And there's still many today that just don't want the density. And so if we in some of these neighborhoods, I'll give you a quick example. In this neighborhood that where this property was, I had a piece of dirt and I wanted to build 6 units in 2004. And I remember being on site and the neighbors were just outraged at me that I wanted to build apartments. I'm like, guys, we've been here for 25 years and we're going to be here for another 25, maybe more. You guys are here because of us stabilizing the neighborhood. And so they were literally yelling at me on the site because they didn't want me to build apartments. And I'm like, now that it's changed in the 18 years since that conversation. Now people are much more open. I think they're waking up to that we need this density. And, also where you see, and if we want, we can get into why apartment buildings are 4/1, right? Like they're super dense because that's what the economics are. But you're seeing where these buildings are popping up that are very dense. Well, that's actually the cheapest way to get more affordable housing is to build on a site that already has utilities too. It's cheaper for the city. And so as you see neighborhoods change and you see more density, the bus lines are there, the water's there, the electric's there, it's already there. And so, I feel like we're getting better as a nation, if you will, of accepting apartments and accepting the density. But really, it's a supply and demand issue. So how do we make it easier to build apartments? I think you've got to have tax incentives. And as much as people go, oh my God, greedy developers. Well, there are some areas of town that you'd have to pay me to go there because it's bad. And even the tax incentives won't get me to go there. I don't know how to solve that problem. But you need those incentives to get developers. The deals just don't pencil. So how do we work together more to get more units? So whether it's the approval process, in some cities here in Central Ohio, it's very difficult to get an apartment community approved in the city proper. But you go to the outside of the outside to a community outside of the city, and they will mobilize in some cases really quickly to solve your problems, to find out the challenges you have to get your building built there. We need more of that. We need a faster path to build more. So that's really it. I mean, those are, I think, look, the plumbing inside let me just say, the plumbing inside the walls, whether it's an A-class property or a C-class property or workforce housing, whatever you want to call it, it's the same plumbing. So then you start to look through and you say, what else can we make cheaper? Well, I think a great rabbit hole to go down is manufactured modular construction in apartments. Like that's the next wave. That gets you to market quicker. It's less interest and less carry costs. So if you can get the actual ground up construction done faster, I think that maybe it's cities being more accepting of that type of construction. That is a faster way. And so it has to be a combination. I mean, to me, I approach everything. We have to win, and everyone has to win in this equation, whether it's the renter, the developer, the seller. We all have to win. So it's finding that balance. And I do think the incentives to get developers to come in, and whether that's a tax abatement or it's low cost loans or low interest rate loans or more affordable, maybe more affordable terms. Dane, I think you and I talked about in Columbus, we have this Franklin County has an affordable housing trust, and folks listen to this because look around in where you live. There's probably agencies there or groups that are funded by local banks because they want to do this. They'll provide a pool of money to, we call it the Affordable Housing Trust, that can then provide favorable lending terms to either developers or rehab projects. It needs to be substantial rehab. And I think the Opportunity Zone is a great opportunity. I'm currently exploring that right now. That's another path forward to where, if you can't get it to pencil traditional with the current, market rates, if your investors, your LPs are trying to defer taxes by putting their money in an opportunity zone, well, everyone can win that way because they're making a return and you're providing affordable housing, you're getting a project built, you're adding to your property management team, whatever. So there's all these different ways that you have to look at it now to make it win-win. Seek out, so try to seek out those, I liked your guest, Alvin Hope Johnson, like that was on a couple, like I'm fascinated. I've got to learn how he's doing this because that might be a solution for me to implement around here, the way he's doing it. Yeah. So, what's great is I think after you get on the hockey stick and you've been at this for a long time, then you can sort of pick and choose because, the grind, man, you're always trying to hit a grand slam. And, I've been doing this long enough now that I don't need to do those and I can do projects that are passionate. And, just like my relationship with Dane, I'm looking, to partner with other folks that might have a project that might be a little bit too big for them. They might need some help on the strategy. Maybe they need a person that has a nice balance sheet to guarantee a loan, or they're just not sure how to go about it. So, it's really those partnerships that I'm looking for to, I'm currently like learning how to develop and build new, like that's a passion of mine. So doing more development and looking to do more of that stuff, but still like the cash flowing multifamily deals. So I think it's just those strategic relationships with the right operators and maybe a project, they have something, a line on a piece of land or something's too big. They're just not sure. I can solve those complex problems. I've done very large financing with agencies, banks, so I can do a lot of different things. And so really just looking for strategic relationships. You can go to my website, Peak 10 Group, that's PEAK10 group.com, or natefisher.net. That's my personal. And so all my contacts information is there. So that's how to sort of get in touch with me. Thank you, guys. I really, really enjoyed it. And like I said at the beginning, you really made me dig back in and relive some of those great experiences that I had as a child with my family. So thank you. I really appreciate it, guys. It's been great. I mean, there are some crazy, crazy stories that they have. And so, yeah, my mom we were talking about, there's a bunch of stories, but it has been a great, ride. And yeah, my dad he's that old school, no filter grinder, just grind it out, man. Yeah, he's a character. That's something I'll try to run it by him. I don't know how he do live, but you might have to have the beep button. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at a $45 million one, and that's a little bit like that would require like, sort of a change. I mean, that's a lot of money. That's sort of, I was talking about that, and I don't have 15 million sitting around to go into that. So that would require, going out and aligning with, a family office or somebody with some deep pockets. That's but yeah, I mean you're really getting into like a yield play at that point, right? Like if there's no value that you can force into the deal, you've got to just really buy it right and make sure you have the right long-term debt, and then you're hoping the market takes it up a little bit, so. Well, yeah, I mean that's the thing we didn't talk about is the delay that's happening in people getting payments, and that again, like if you're a small person, you're not built to handle this, and you don't have the deep pockets, then that delay in getting paid can be brutal. So that's why I say not everybody's cut out to be a landlord, right? Like if you only have one or two units and you get delayed, so maybe the LP route up until a certain point. And again, not everybody's cut out to be landlords, right? Like the LP is fine. I mean, I got out, I don't know, $4 million of passive investments last year, just so we have that diversification. across, and teaching my family to be passive investors, because that's what they are these days. They're older now. I mean, my brother's retired, and it's okay to be LP, right? Like, it's all right. You know, now, can you direct that to can you direct that to invest in as an LP in a deal I would put together? But you can't be, you're not able to be an active member of it, right? Is it like that? Well, I mean, I'm trying to buy an acre and a quarter on Main Street, just down the street from my other building this morning. So I just made the offer. I don't know how I'm going to pay for it, but I'll figure it out. No, so, but no, that's why I just love this business, right? Like, I'm looking right now I've got 3 or 4 parcels that are in an opportunity zone. So, I always think, like, I'm super good at looking at all the different pieces of the puzzle. I know they go together. I just don't know how. So right now I'm working on this crazy strategy of opportunity zone, where I get my folks to sell their property to a trust that my kids or their grandkids are the beneficiaries of, that we take their proceeds, put that into the opportunity zone fund, which is my development, and all the and the development itself might be a couple, like, almost no cash on cash return, but the opportunity zone generates so much tax savings over time that it's a win-win for everybody, and it all stays in the family if I do it the right way. So I'm trying to put that piece of the puzzle together. And if I can do that, like, boy, everybody wins. My parents win because they're deferring their long-term capital gains. My kids win because we've done estate planning. Uh, we get a development project, we generate some fees. Like, I love that kind of stuff, man. I love it. Well, back to the diversification, like, I made so many passive investments on behalf of the family last year, but they were in mostly development deals, except for the deal, yours is a cash flow deal, I'll call it that. Is I'm trying to figure out what's the best way. Like, there's not a lot of cash flow multifamily deals right now. So do I continue investing in, 2025 will be great. Like, we'll have a tidal wave of cash from all these development deals that I'm invested in and stuff that I'm building too, stabilizing. But between now and there, I got to, figure out what's the best cash flow investments. And that might be, it's definitely not the stock market. I know that. But anyway. Honestly, no. Like, I invested with that group in Utah I told you about, and they're not tax advantage deals, but it's 12% secured. The collateral is great. 12%'s not anything to shake a stick at for doing no work. So, you know, but always looking for the tax advantage and stuff like I'm thrilled that we got the cost segregation study on our deal done, and that helps out. And, you know, so yeah, yeah. And that's why, I can be really, really, really picky about what I take on, because I'm sort of through it's just a different grind now, right? Like, I don't have to go, I think 2022 was about, or at least 2023 so far, and the end of 2022 is not making mistakes. It's about making smart decisions, not getting caught up in the fees, or not making, like, not doing bad deals right now. Like, that's I think that's an important part, to do the right deals now, and they're hard to find. Well, I mean, I think they've got 15% of their current multifamily housing unit number delivering in the next 2 years. They're going to have a big oversupply problem in that city. Um, but I always, I guess the good thing about the C-class properties is they're not building anymore. you know, I mean, they're not building any more C-class properties, really. So, if you can weather the storm, and from the management side of the C-class, it's always going to be there. So, well, Well, to go back to the creativity that you have to have right now, like two of the deals that are on my plate right now are deals where I have to go into the partnership and I have to value the partnership and buy in because the debt's good, but the partnership isn't that good. And so, you know, who's going to take the haircut, right? Like I am I becoming vulture capital? Like, is that what my role is now when I look at these? Like, hey, I'm just going to save you from going bankrupt. And so it's not that the property is distressed; it's the partnership has distress. So, I think you've got to be ready to be really, really creative. And the one that I'm looking at, this is really interesting. Like, I know the lender who has the debt, but the ownership group is headed to the iceberg. They're Titanic. They're going to crash. So do I let them crash? Do I step in and because you know what? Do you want to? The seller or the partners have to realize that your reputation's on the line. And like you said, Ken, it's all reputation. So you can either not make any money on this deal and save your reputation, or you can hold out and lose your property and have a shitty reputation. What do you want to do? Right? The lender's like, yeah, you can swap out the guarantors as long as I, the lender, get better guarantors in the same terms. You can keep the loan. Like, we'll let you jump out. So I think it's those kind of opportunities right now that are going to be coming at us. Like, how can you be creative? And the bank's going to have to be like, I don't want that back. Yeah, I'll let you swap out. Or yeah, I know that I know that those loan. And if the loan is an agency, this is a lot harder if it's an agency loan. But if it's just a regional bank and it's on their balance sheet, they don't want that property back. You got to go to them. I heard a guy tell me the other day, he's like, I'm writing letters to every loan officer I know telling them I'm here and I'm ready. Like, for your troubled partnerships, I'm here. Call me. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I think there's going to be that kind of stuff coming for sure. Where there's already capital calls going on in some of those partnerships, and that's something that I think your listeners need to be aware of is that, where are you in the capital call, and do you want to have a capital call, and if you don't bring money, what happens? So I think that some of those syndicators, and I always look at these kind of blips as good because it weeds out the people that shouldn't be in here anyway. And there's a lot of people in here that probably shouldn't be here, and that's going to be the guys that are here for the long haul. We're gonna be okay because we'll just come in and do what we do. So yeah, I think you're going to see syndicators that, and I'm starting to syndicate deals too, but you got to be really careful. Nobody wants a capital call. I mean, if for me, like, I'm going to put my own money into the deal to short up before I go to my LPs. Like, that's my plan as the GP. Like, I'm not coming to ask you. I'm going to go get money from somewhere else, so I don't have to ask you for money. That's that's the way I'm treating this, because I don't want to have that. I don't want to have that problem. So Dane, like, if you've got that money in there and you ever come into a problem, like, I mean, you could probably, or find a problem partnership, you could probably buy in with your trust and get, it's what are people willing to give up, So yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things I've been focused on lately is, and Dane, the book that I've got it in my backpack right now, First to a Million, like, talking about children and educating them on what we do and how to get them into the business and not push them into the business, but how do you create your kids coming up? How do you educate them about, because my kids by default, I mean, they have multiple real estate positions that they don't even know about. And it falls on me to educate them the right way. And I always tell them, I say, and I think that's a great topic to talk about at some point, whatever podcast is they can go follow their dreams and do whatever, but by default, you need to learn how to be a good partner in these partnerships, whether that's LP or maybe GP if you want to get there. But how do you be a good partner? What education do you need to be a good LP? Like, that's Yeah. I think that's great. Yeah, I think that what we always say, my wife and I, is we're like, well, hey, we big day today. We bought another property, and kids, you got another door. You got one door, and 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 so now that we're driving around, they're like, hey, Dad, where's our door? Where's our door? And they got me a little door, a little fake door for Christmas with a door handle on it. As so funny stuff. Well, guys, so yeah, I think you just got to find what is relatable for your children to get into this, because it is a great business. I love it. So good stuff. All right, guys. Well, that was fun. Let me let me know, and I'll be on the lookout for it when it's and we'll all watch it. Thank you, Kent. I appreciate it. Thanks, Dane. Have fun on vacation. Okay, great. All right. Thanks, guys.